Pentagon readies 1,500 troops for potential Minnesota deployment, U.S. officials say. That's not good.
The Pentagon has ordered 1,500 active-duty soldiers to prepare for a possible deployment to Minnesota, two U.S. officials told Reuters on Sunday. That follows a threat by President Donald Trump to use the Insurrection Act to quell protests there against the government's deportation drive. The Army placed the units on prepare-to-deploy orders in case violence in the Midwestern state escalates.
At what point is this not a civil war? Okay, listen, I need this to be official policy in chat. Mods, you need to listen to me. If you guys keep asking whether or not a civil war is happening or will happen, you're going to get muted. It's such a tedious question. At what point is this not a civil war? You're talking to hear yourself talk. You're not asking me to do it. You're not asking for any information from me, okay? Please, God. It's so tedious. It happens 100 times every stream. Please stop. Please. It's facetious, man. It's like a rhetorical question. Stop. You realize that the Civil War of the United States was an actual civil war, right? It wasn't like discontent in the streets or like infighting or social unrest. It was an actual schism where states left the Union, formed their own government, and marshaled their own armies. A civil war is different. You need multiple armies. It's when there's a split in the country between existing institutions. And it's not going to happen here, okay? If what you're asking is, does this mean the civil unrest has started? Then the answer is, yeah, obviously. That started a while ago.
The officials said, though it was not clear whether any of them would be sent. The soldiers subject to deployment specialize in cold weather operations, according to the officials. They're assigned to Army infantry battalions under the 11th Airborne Division based in Alaska, seen here in previously released Defense Department footage. The Pentagon and the White House did not immediately respond to Reuters' requests for comment on the order. It was first reported by ABC News.
Anyway, the thing that's particularly insane about this, in my opinion, is that these aren't even National Guardsmen. What's weird is that Trump has said he's not interested in invoking the Insurrection Act. I have no idea what you could possibly do with an airborne division. With like the fact that he wouldn't default to the National Guard makes me wonder if he thought that they wouldn't obey his orders if he attempted to, like it would stall the same way the other attempts to use the National Guard did. But if he's not doing the Insurrection Act bit, I have no idea what the airmen would even do. Like when we sent the airborne into, I actually forget which state, to protect the civil rights protesters in the Little Rock Nine, they were like, that was Insurrection Act, you know? Was it Arkansas? Thank you, Arkansas. Yeah. I don't really know what they would do. They're also not trained in any kind of policing action. They're a purely Arctic paratrooper unit from Alaska. Why Arctic, man? Do you think ice slipped one too many times on frosty roads and they were like, dude, this is like crazy cold over here. We need like special forces, like special cold forces or something.
Trump on Thursday had warned Minnesota officials to stop protesters from targeting Immigration and Customs Enforcement or ICE agents. Otherwise, he said in a social media post, quote, I will institute the Insurrection Act. The federal law...
But he has said he's backed off that. But again, it's Trump, so who the knows?
...gives the president the power to deploy the military or federalize National Guard troops to stop domestic uprisings. But the president can deploy active duty forces for certain domestic purposes, such as protecting federal property, even without invoking the act. In addition, the Pentagon could also attempt to deploy newly created National Guard Rapid Response Forces for civil disturbances. Trump has sent nearly 3,000 federal agents from ICE and Border Patrol to Minneapolis and neighboring St. Paul since early last week. Confrontations between residents and the officers have intensified since an ICE agent shot.
Yeesh. If we know the DOJ is probing the governor and mayor for crimes, is it possible to utilize the Insurrection Act and the 11th Airborne to arrest them and take direct control of the city? You wouldn't need the 11th Airborne to do that. For one, no, they legally can't do that. If the Insurrection Act is invoked, that doesn't necessarily give them the right to do that. Like they can't be used willy-nilly. But also, this unit doesn't have, as Masaigu said, police training. Like it's an actual military unit, not National Guardsmen. So I don't really know. Yeah, there are some people in chat that are speculating that this might be some kind of roundabout way of getting people prepped for Greenland, but I also don't think that's true. Because if we're going to do something promptly in Greenland, it is not going to be through an Arctic Airborne Division. It's going to be through Special Forces. There is no way the Pentagon would sign off on 1,500 men being deployed to Greenland, like as an opening attack. That would be, I mean, I guess nothing's impossible, but I just don't think it's likely. Never say never. Yeah.
Breaking news involving the southern border tonight. President Trump set to deploy an additional 1,500 troops to the border.
That is not the same. This is not even remote. I look up 1,500 troops. What do I get? I get something unrelated. Nice. The Minnesota National Guard has been getting equipped with high-vis vests to show they're not ICE. That is so funny, dude. Holy shit. The ICE jacked their military tactical gear, so now the actual military is like, dude, hold on, we're not them. Yep. Now the actual military has to dress like it's not the military because federal law enforcement agencies dress too much like the military. That is crazy. And also, by the way, really smart. The idea of, like, making your camo irrelevant by putting a high-vis vest over it as a show of, like, hey, we're not those guys, that's, in a way, that's a kind of solidarity. That is a decision that they would only choose to make if their sympathies did not lie with ICE going into this, right? Like, there's no reason they would do this unless they were specifically trying to, like, hey, listen, we're not with those guys, which is good, because trust me, if the National Guard are deployed into the Twin Cities area, the last thing we want is protesters treating National Guardsmen like they're ICE. Very different groups of people, very different types of people, you know? They've already signaled that they'd fight to protect people's rights. I mean, they say that. Look, I trust a National Guardsman 1,000 times over more than I do any ICE agent. Easily, 100, a million times over. It's not even close, the difference between them. I would trust a National Guardsman over a cop most days. And I would trust a cop 100 times more than an ICE agent. There were so many different degrees of distrust, but ICE is on the far end of all of them. Dude, look, the right wing is mad about this. These Minnesota National Guardsmen live, work, and serve in our state. They're focused on protecting life, preserving property, and ensuring Minnesotans can safely exercise their First Amendment rights. The Minnesota National Guard, we respect the law and believe in protecting America. The right wing, maybe don't put high-vis targets on their chest like assholes. Is this a plea to the mob? You go against the federal agencies and you're going to cross a line I don't think you want to cross. This is the stuff that starts civil wars. Minnesota National Guard cuck force protecting illegals, wild. All they said was, we're gonna protect people's rights. Incredible, really. It's almost like the right wing knows that they have very, very few allies outside of ICE. Given these replies are probably from Indians, so we probably shouldn't take this much as a show of, like, actual American support. But from Will Stancil, greatest hero of the West, warrior of the Constitution. I'm hearing people freak out about a military deployment to Minneapolis, but it doesn't change much. It's scary, but it's the same. We still outnumber them 101. They have more guns than us either way. They can shoot. Well, I mean, technically, the citizens of Minneapolis probably have way, way more guns than either ICE, the police, or any military deployment could possibly bring to the table. But, you know, it's not, that's just a technicality. They can shoot us either way. They'll probably be easier to find and follow if they're in a tank. I don't think they're going to use a tank. Will Stancil's rather divisive on Blue Sky. Dude, Will Stancil, for whom it do be like that, has been a warrior for the free world. You see, we'll follow him in a second, okay? Hold on. First, this segment ends, okay?